The ship came out of nowhere on a Tuesday morning. It was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. The sky above Seoul turned dark as the vessel blocked out the sun. People stopped walking. Cars stopped moving. Everyone looked up at the thing that should not exist. Admiral Kung Tae was eating breakfast when the alarm started. He put down his chopsticks slowly, looked at his phone, and saw 16 missed calls from the Defense Ministry. He already knew what had happened. Somewhere deep inside, he had always known this day would come. Within an hour, every television and phone on Earth showed the same image. A tall creature with silver skin and 4 eyes stood in what looked like a throne room. Its voice was cold, like metal scraping against stone. I am Ambassador Kilos of the Veltron Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender all governments, all military forces, and all resources to Dominion control. Resistance will result in complete extinction. This is not a negotiation. This is your notice. The transmission ended. The world went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the chaos began. Admiral Tae arrived at the United Earth Defense Council building in Seoul 2 hours later. The place was a mess of shouting generals and crying politicians. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to launch nuclear weapons at the alien ship. Most just wanted someone to tell them what to do. Tae walked past all of them without speaking. He entered the main conference room where a holographic display showed the alien fleet in orbit. 12,000 warships surrounded Earth like wolves circling a wounded deer. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy an entire country. Dr. Park Yuna was already there, studying the alien transmission on her tablet. She was the Council's best expert on languages and communication. She had spent 20 years preparing to talk to aliens. Now that they were here, she looked tired and scared like everyone else. They have done this before, Yuna said quietly. Many times, you can hear it in his voice. There is no emotion, no excitement. We are just another planet to them. Another number on a list. He nodded slowly. How many ships? 12,000 confirmed. Probably more hiding behind the moon. Yuna put down her tablet. Admiral, I have studied every science fiction story, every military theory, every possible scenario for first contact. None of them prepared me for this. Nothing could prepare anyone for this, Tae said. He looked at the holographic display for a long moment. The alien ships were not moving. They were not scanning Earth or sending probes. They were just waiting. They are not even watching us carefully. They think this is already over, is it not? Yuna asked. Tae turned to face her. His eyes were calm in a way that made her nervous. Do you know why I was chosen to lead Earth's defense forces, Dr. Park? Because you are the best strategist we have. No, because 30 years ago, I wrote a paper that everyone laughed at. I said that humanity needed to prepare for hostile alien contact. I said we needed weapons that could fight ships we had never seen. I said we needed plans for scenarios that seemed impossible. He smiled, but there was no happiness in it. They called me paranoid. They said I was wasting resources on fantasy. But they let me build my programs anyway, because it kept me quiet and cost them very little. Yuna felt something cold move through her chest. What programs? Come with me. I need to show you something. It took a private elevator down. It went far below the building, deeper than any official floor. When the doors opened, Yuna found herself in a facility she never knew existed. It stretched for what looked like miles in every direction. Thousands of people worked at computer stations, monitoring screens filled with data she did not understand. Colonel Lee Day met them at the entrance. He was a short man with gray hair and the eyes of someone who had not slept in days. Admiral, we received your activation code. Project Hammer is online. Show Dr. Park what we have, Tae said. Day led them through the facility, explaining as they walked. The weapons they had built in secret. Railguns that could shoot metal rods faster than anything in nature. Drone swarms numbered in the millions, hidden in satellites that looked like space junk. A planetary shield network built into Earth's communication systems. Nuclear devices wrapped in technology that made them invisible to sensors. We have been building this for 30 years, Day said. Every major nation contributed in secret. It was the one thing everyone agreed on. If something came from the stars to hurt us, we would be ready. Yuna felt dizzy. Why did no one know about this? Because the best weapon is the one your enemy does not expect, Tay said. The Veltrons scanned our planet. They saw our public military, our jets and tanks and missiles. They calculated that we could not hurt them, and they were right. But they did not scan deep enough. They did not look for things that were hidden. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Dr. Park, I need you to do something important. In 48 hours, I want you to send a message to the alien fleet. Just 2 words in every language they might understand. What words? Humanity declines. Yuna stared at him. That will make them attack. They are going to attack anyway. The only question is whether we are ready. Tay looked back at the massive facility around them. For 30 years, I have asked myself if I was crazy, if I was wasting my life preparing for something that would never happen. Now I know the answer. What is the answer? The answer is that I was right. And because I was right, humanity has a chance. He started walking again. Come. We have 70 hours left, and there is much to do. Above them, 12,000 alien warships waited in the darkness of space. Ambassador Kilos reviewed his reports and felt satisfied. Earth would fall like all the others. It was simply mathematics. The strong consumed the weak. That was the law of the universe. He did not know that below the planet's surface, in bunkers spread across 6 continents, humanity was waking up. He did not know that the species he had dismissed as primitive had been waiting for him. He did not know that his 72-hour deadline was not a countdown to Earth's surrender. It was a countdown to the Veltron. Dominion's worst mistake. 40-8 hours passed. The Veltron fleet watched Earth and saw nothing unusual. No military movements. No evacuation ships. No desperate attempts at communication. The planet had gone completely silent. Ambassador Kilos found this strange but not concerning. He had seen this before. Some species chose to spend their final hours with their families. Others fell into despair and simply waited for the end. Humans, it seemed, were the quiet type. He respected that, in a way. Dignity in death was rare among the conquered. What Kilos could not see was happening underground in the Sol facility. Admiral Kong Tae had not slept in 2 days. He stood in front of a massive screen showing 200 green dots spread across the globe. Each dot was a hidden weapons base. Each one was now fully armed and waiting for his command. Captain Shin Hannah walked up beside him. She was young for her rank, only 34, but she had proven herself in every test and simulation Tae had created. Now she would prove herself in real combat against an enemy no human had ever faced. All stations report ready, Hannah said. Railgun systems charged. Drone swarms in launch position. Shield network on standby. We are waiting for your order, Admiral. Tay nodded but did not look away from the screen. And the Prometheus devices? Hannah hesitated. Ready? But Admiral, are you sure we should use them? We do not fully understand what they will do. I understand enough. Tay finally turned to face her. Captain, let me ask you something. What do you think our biggest advantage is right now? Hannah thought about it. Our weapons are hidden. They do not know what we have. That is part of it. But there is something else. Tay pointed at the screen showing the alien fleet. Look at their formation. They have not changed position in 48 hours. They are not scanning us actively. They are not sending soldiers to secure landing zones. They are just waiting, because they think we cannot fight back. Exactly. They have conquered 600 worlds. They have never lost. They do not know what it feels like to be surprised. They do not know what it feels like to be afraid. Tay smiled grimly. We are going to teach them. In another part of the facility, Dr. Park Yuna was recording her message. She had spent hours choosing the exact words, making sure they would translate correctly into every alien language in the database. In the end, she chose simplicity. Humanity declines. 2 words. No explanation. No negotiation. No begging for mercy. just a simple statement of refusal. She knew it would make the aliens angry. She knew it would make them attack. But she also knew that Admiral Tay was right. The attack was coming anyway. These two words were not about stopping it. They were about sending a message of their own. "We are not afraid of you, Lieutenant." Cho Wu found her in the recording room after she finished. He was Captain Hannah's second in command, a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. Right now, he looked worried. "Dr. Park, are we really going to fight them?" Yuna looked at him. "Yes. Can we win?" That was the question everyone was asking. The question no one wanted to answer. Where Yuna had studied the alien technology from the scans they had collected, the Veltran ships were advanced, powerful, and numerous. By any normal calculation, humanity should lose. But something else kept nagging at her mind. "Lieutenant, how long have humans been fighting wars?" Wu blinked at the strange question. "Thousands of years. And in all that time, how many times has a smaller, weaker force defeated a larger, stronger one?" "Many times. History is full of such battles." "Exactly." Yuna stood up and looked at the ceiling, as if she could see through the rock and concrete to the alien ships above. "The Veltrans are strong, but they have never fought a species like us. They have never fought a species that spends half its history fighting itself. We have been practicing war since before we could write. It is in our blood. It is in our culture. It is in every story we tell and every game our children play." She turned back to Wu. "They think they are predators and we are prey. They are wrong. We are predators too. We have just been waiting for something worthy to hunt." At hour 59, Dr. Baek-yoon finished her final preparations. She was the leader of Earth's Electronic Warfare Division, a team of hackers and engineers who had spent 15 years developing ways to disrupt alien communications. They had never had a real target to test their work on. Now they did. "The virus packages are ready," Yoon told Admiral Tay through the video link. "Once we launch, their fleet communications will go dark within seconds. They will not be able to coordinate. They will not be able to retreat. Every ship will be alone." "Good," Tay said. "Wait for my signal, Admiral." Yoon paused. "What if this does not work? What if they are stronger than we thought?" Tay was quiet for a moment. "Then we will die fighting. But we will not die on our knees, Dr. Baek. We will not die begging. Whatever happens in the next few hours, the galaxy will know that humanity did not go quietly." At hour 70:59, Dr. Park Yuna's message was broadcast on every frequency the Veltron fleet could receive. "Humanity declines." Ambassador Kilos received the message in his throne room. For a moment, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Surprise. Then he felt something else. Amusement. These creatures had chosen death over submission. How foolish. How pointless. How very ... interesting. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered. "Destroy their major cities first. Let the survivors see what defiance costs." The Veltron fleet moved into attack formation. 10,000 plasma weapons charged with enough energy to burn continents. This was the moment Kilosa enjoyed most. The moment when a species realized its mistake. The moment when hope turned to ash. But as the first weapons fired, something strange happened. The plasma beams did not reach Earth's surface. They hit something invisible. A barrier of energy that flickered blue and gold as it absorbed the attack. Kilo stared at his screen. "What is this?" Before anyone could answer, the space around Earth exploded with light. Missiles appeared from nowhere. Metal rods flew faster than the eye could follow. Swarms of tiny machines poured from the planet like angry wasps from a broken nest. The hunter had become the hunted, and humanity's war had begun. The battle lasted 60 seconds. In that time, everything changed. At second 1, the Veltron fleet opened fire. 10,000 plasma beams shot toward Earth, each one carrying enough energy to destroy a city. The aliens expected to see explosions. They expected to see fire and death and the beginning of another easy conquest. At second 3, they saw something else. A wall of invisible energy surrounded the entire planet. The plasma beams hit it and scattered like rain against glass. The shield flickered with blue light but did not break. Earth's hidden defense network had activated perfectly. Ambassador Kilos felt the first touch of real fear. At second 7, Admiral Kongte gave his order. One word, spoken calmly, that would change the history of the galaxy. Fire. At second 8, the railguns launched. 200 facilities across Earth sent tungsten rods into space at 12% of light speed. The rods were as long as buses and as heavy as trucks. At that speed, they did not need explosives. They were explosives. Pure physics turned into weapons. At second 12, the first rods hit their targets. 47 Veltran warships were struck before their shields could react. The ships did not explode in the normal way. They came apart. They turned into clouds of metal and fire that spread across space like blooming flowers. In 4 seconds, 47 ships and their crews ceased to exist. K.A. Loss watched in horror. His people had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never lost a ship so quickly. They had never lost a ship without warning. Now they were losing dozens at a time. At second 15, the drone's swarms emerged from Earth's atmosphere. 18 million tiny machines, each one carrying a bomb. They moved in patterns that no living creature could follow. They flowed like water, like smoke, like a plague of metal insects. The Veltran point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. For every drone they destroyed, 10 more took its place. At second 20, the first drones reached their targets. They flew into engine vents and weapon ports and shield generators. They exploded in coordinated waves, crippling ship after ship. Veltran destroyers went dark. Cruisers lost their weapons. Battleships began to drift helplessly. At second 23, Ambassador Kilos tried to order a retreat. He pressed the communication button and spoke the command. Nothing happened. His voice did not reach his fleet. In the bunker beneath Sol, Dr. Bikyun watched her screens with a strange smile. Her virus had worked perfectly. Every communication channel in the Veltran fleet was dead. Every ship was alone, unable to coordinate with its neighbors. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been turned into 12,000 confused. Isolated targets. At second 31, the nuclear devices arrived. They had been launched earlier, hidden inside missiles so small and dark that Veltron's sensors had ignored them. Now they detonated in the heart of the alien formation. Bright balls of fire appeared across the black sky, each one swallowing ships that had survived the railguns and drones. Captain Shin Hannah watched the battle from her command station. Her hands were shaking. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life, but nothing could prepare her for the reality. Thousands of alien ships burning. Millions of alien soldiers dying. All in less than a minute. "This is not a battle," she whispered. "This is a slaughter." Lieutenant Cho Wu stood beside her, his face pale. "They wanted to kill us all. Every man, woman, and child on Earth." "I know." Hannah took a deep breath. "I know. But still," at second 45, the flagship Eternal Decree took a direct hit from a railgun. The rod punched through the ship's shields like they were made of paper. It struck the engine core and kept going. Tearing through the vessel from stern to bow, Ambassador Kilos had 3 seconds to understand what was happening. 3 seconds to realize that his entire fleet was dying around him. 3 seconds to know that he had made the worst mistake in Veltron history. Then the flagship exploded, and Ambassador Kilos was gone. At second 53, Admiral Tay ordered the second wave. Fresh missiles launched from submarines that had been hiding in Earth's oceans. More railgun rounds screamed into space. The drone swarms regrouped and attacked again. At second 60, the Battle of Sol ended. Half the Veltron fleet was destroyed. 6,000 ships were nothing but debris floating in the darkness. The other half was scattered and broken, their communications dead, their weapons damaged, their crews in complete panic. In the Sol bunker, no one spoke. They stared at their screens, watching the impossible victory unfold. Dr. Park Yuna was crying quietly. Colonel Lee Day had fallen to his knees. Even Admiral Tay looked stunned, as if he could not believe his own plan had worked so well. Captain Hannah was the first to find her voice. "Admiral, the remaining ships are trying to escape. Should we pursue?" Tay shook his head slowly. "No, let some of them go, sir. We need witnesses, Captain." Tay straightened his uniform and forced himself to focus. "We need the galaxy to know what happened here. We need them to know that humanity is not prey." He turned to face his command staff. These were the people who had worked in secret for 30 years. The people who had been called crazy and paranoid and foolish. The people who had just saved the human race. "This was only the first battle," Tay said. "The Dominion will send more ships. They will be ready for us next time. We need to prepare. We need to build more weapons, train more soldiers, forge more alliances." "Alliances with whom?" Yuna asked, wiping her eyes. "With everyone the Dominion has conquered. With every species that has suffered under their rule." Tay smiled grimly. "We just proved that the Dominion can be beaten. That is the most dangerous message in the galaxy right now. There are billions of slaves out there who just learned that their masters are not gods." He looked up at the ceiling, toward the stars that had once seemed so threatening. "The war is not over. It has just begun. But for the first time in history, humanity is not alone. For the first time, we have something worth fighting for beyond our own survival." "What is that?" Hannah asked. "Hope," Tay said. "And hope is the one weapon the Dominion cannot defeat." Above Earth, the debris of 6,000 warships began its slow fall toward the planet. The sky that night would be filled with shooting stars. People all over the world would watch them and understand that something had changed. Something fundamental. Something permanent. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy. And the galaxy would never be the same. The news spread faster than any ship could travel. Within days, every corner of the galaxy knew what had happened at Earth. The Veltron Dominion, the undefeated conquerors of 600 worlds, had been destroyed in 60 seconds by a species they had never heard of. At first, no one believed it. The Dominion controlled all major communication networks. They could silence any story they wanted. But they could not silence the surviving ships that limped back to Veltron space with burned hulls and broken crews. They could not silence the recordings that showed plasma beams bouncing off an invisible shield. They could not silence the images of Ambassador Kilos's flagship exploding like a toy. On the Veltron homeworld, High Chancellor Moros watched the recordings in his private chamber. He watched them 17 times. Each time, he looked for some mistake, some error, some sign that this was not real. Each time, he found nothing. The Dominion had ruled through fear. For 10,000 years, every conquered species had believed the same thing. Resistance was impossible. The Veltrons were too strong, too advanced, too numerous. Surrender was the only logical choice. Now that belief was shattered, and Moros knew what would come next. It started small. A slave uprising on a mining colony in the outer systems. A protest on a factory world that turned into a riot. A Dominion governor found dead in his office, with human words carved into his chest. "We decline." Within weeks, the small things became big things. Entire planets refused to send their tribute. Allied species demanded new treaties. Neutral powers began arming themselves openly. The galaxy that had been quiet for millennia was suddenly waking up. On Earth, Admiral Kongte worked without rest. The Battle of Seoul had been a victory, but it was only the first move in a much longer game. The Dominion would return with more ships and better tactics. Humanity needed to be ready. General O'Bean was placed in charge of the new expeditionary fleet. His job was to take the war beyond Earth's borders, to find allies, to build a coalition of free species that could stand against the Dominion together. "We have received messages from 47 different worlds, been reported at the daily council meeting. Some want military help. Others want to trade technology. A few just want to talk." "Talk about what?" Captain Shinhana asked. "About us? About how we did it. They want to understand how a primitive species with no space navy could destroy a Dominion fleet." Ben smiled slightly. "I think some of them are afraid of us." Dr. Park Yuna shook her head. Fear is not what we need. We need trust. We need them to see us as liberators, not as new conquerors. Then we must show them who we really are, Admiral Tay said. General, when you meet with these species, tell them the truth. We did not seek this war. We did not want it. We were given a choice between extinction and resistance, and we chose to fight. But our goal was never conquest. Our goal was survival. And now? Ben asked. No. Our goal is freedom. For us, and for everyone the Dominion has enslaved. The first alliance was formed with a species called the Aruni. They were small creatures, barely reaching a human's waist, but they had some of the best engineers in the galaxy. For 300 years, they had built ships and weapons for the Dominion. Now they wanted to build ships and weapons for humanity. We watched the battle recordings many times, their leader said through a translator. Your weapons are crude but effective. Your tactics are unusual but successful. Most importantly, you are brave. The Dominion taught us that bravery was foolish. You have taught us that bravery can win. More alliances followed. The Kashari, whose homeworld had been burned by the Dominion centuries ago, offered soldiers. The Tovan, who had secretly preserved forbidden technology, offered knowledge. Species that had been enemies for generations put aside their differences because they had found a common cause. Dr. Beek Yoon led the effort to reverse engineer captured Veltron technology. Her teams worked on the destroyed ships that had fallen into Earth's atmosphere, pulling apart alien systems and learning their secrets. Their shields are based on energy frequencies we never considered, Yoon explained to the Council. Their weapons use plasma contained in magnetic fields. Their engines bend space in ways our physics said was impossible. She paused. But now that we know it is possible, we can learn to do it ourselves. How long? Tay asked. Years for full understanding. Months for basic improvements to our own systems. Yoon smiled. The next time they come, we will be ready with more than hidden weapons. We will have their weapons, made better by human hands. As the months passed, the Dominion's empire continued to crumble. Reports came in of open rebellion on world after world. Dominion fleets were stretched thin trying to maintain control. Resources that would have been used for a second attack on Earth were diverted to fighting fires across the galaxy. 1 year after the Battle of Seoul, TIE Chancellor Moros made a decision that shocked his own people. He sent a message to Earth requesting negotiations. Not demanding, requesting. Admiral Tay received the message in his office. He read it 3 times, then called his senior staff together. They want peace, he said simply. It is a trick, Colonel Lee Day said immediately. They want to buy time to rebuild their forces. Maybe Tay agreed. But we cannot refuse to talk. That would make us no better than them. Captain Hannah leaned forward. What do we demand? Everything. Tay looked around the room at the faces of the people who had helped save humanity. We demand an end to their conquests. We demand freedom for their slaves. We demand the right of every species to choose their own future. They will never agree to that, Yuna said quietly. No, they will not. Not at first. Tay stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was clear and blue. Ships from allied worlds floated in orbit, waiting to help Earth if needed. But that is not the point. The point is to show the galaxy what we stand for. The point is to prove that humanity does not just fight for itself. He turned back to face them. The Dominion ruled through fear. We will lead through hope. That is what makes us different. That is what will make us win. General Loban nodded slowly. So we agree to negotiations. We agree to listen, Tay said, and we tell the galaxy exactly what we demand. Let every slave world hear it. Let every conquered species know that someone is fighting for their freedom. He smiled. And for the first time since the alien ships had appeared, there was real warmth in it. The Dominion started this war, but humanity will decide how it ends. The peace talks were held on the moon. Humanity had built a special facility for the occasion, a dome of glass and steel that looked out over the gray lunar surface toward the blue Earth hanging in the black sky. It was a reminder to everyone who attended of what was at stake. The Veltron delegation arrived on a single ship, much smaller than the fleet that had once darkened Earth's skies. High Chancellor Moros led them personally. He was taller than Ambassador Kilos had been, with silver skin that had turned gray from stress and age. His 4 eyes moved constantly, scanning the room, studying the humans who had done the impossible. Admiral Kongte met him at the entrance. They stood face to face, the leader of humanity and the ruler of a dying empire. Neither spoke for a long moment. "You destroyed our fleet in 60 seconds, Moros said finally. His voice was rough, like gravel scraping together. "You gave us 72 hours to prepare," Tay replied calmly. "That was more time than we needed." Moros made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We have conquered 600 worlds. None of them fought back like you did. None of them were ready. None of them were human." They walked together into the conference room. Dr. Park Yuna was there, along with Captain Shin Hanna, Colonel Lee Day, General Obin, and representatives from every nation on Earth. They had argued for months about what to demand. In the end, they had agreed on something unprecedented. "We do not want your territory," Admiral Tay began once everyone was seated. "We do not want your resources. We do not want revenge for the worlds you have destroyed." Moros leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Then what does humanity want?" "We want you to stop." Tay slid a document across the table. It was written in 17 languages, including Veltron. The terms were clear and simple. No more conquests. No more slave species. No more forced integration into the Dominion. Every world currently under Veltron control would be given a choice: stay or leave. Those who chose to leave would be protected by the new alliance that humanity had formed. Moros read the document slowly. When he finished, he looked up at Tay with something close to disbelief. "You ask us to give up our empire? Your empire's already falling apart," Yuna said. She activated a holographic display showing a map of Dominion space. Red markers indicated worlds in rebellion. Yellow markers showed territories that had declared independence. Green markers represented species that had joined humanity's alliance. The red and yellow and green covered almost half the map. "These are the reports from the last month alone. Your forces are stretched across 1,000 fronts. Your economy is collapsing. Your allies are abandoning you. You could still destroy Earth," Moros said quietly. "We have enough ships. You could try." Admiral Tay's voice was calm but cold. "We have spent the last year building more weapons, training more soldiers, making more alliances. Our fleet now includes ships from 40 different species. We have learned to use your technology against you. We have weapons you have never seen and tactics you cannot predict." He paused. "You might destroy Earth, but you would lose everything else. Is that what you want, High Chancellor? To rule over ashes?" The room was silent. Moros stared at the document in front of him. His hands, large and silver, trembled slightly. "Why?" he asked suddenly. "You have one. You could demand anything: land, resources, prisoners, the traditional spoils of war. Instead, you ask only for us to stop." "Why?" Captain Hanna answered. She had thought about this question many times since the Battle of Seoul. "Because we are not like you. We do not want an empire. We do not want slaves. We do not want other species to fear us." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth. "We are a strange species, Chancellor. We spend half our history fighting each other. We have done terrible things to our own kind. But we have also learned from our mistakes. We have learned that power without wisdom is meaningless. We have learned that conquest creates enemies, not peace." She turned back to face him. "The Dominion is dying because it was built on fear. Fear can control people for a time, but eventually they stop being afraid. Eventually they realize that they have nothing left to lose. That is when they fight back. That is when empires fall. And what is humanity built on?" Moros asked. "Hope," Admiral Tay said. "The hope that tomorrow can be better than today. The hope that we can overcome any challenge if we work together. The hope that freedom is worth fighting for." He gestured at the people around the table. "1 year ago, we were alone in the universe. We thought we might die. Instead, We found allies across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered for centuries are now standing beside us because we gave them something the Dominion never could. And what is that? A reason to believe. The negotiations lasted for months. There were arguments and threats and moments when everything nearly fell apart. But in the end, the Lunar Accords were signed. The Dominion agreed to end its conquests. Slave worlds were given their freedom. The alliance humanity had built became official. A coalition of free species dedicated to peace and mutual protection. On the day the accords were signed, Captain Shinhana stood beside Admiral Tay on the observation deck. They watched the Veltran delegation's ship fold away into the darkness of space. "Do you think they will honor the treaty?" Hannah asked. Tay considered the question carefully. For now, they are too weak to do anything else. But treaties are just words on paper. The real peace will come from something else. What? From the galaxy changing? From new generations growing up free? From the memory of what happened here fading into history until the Dominion becomes just another fallen empire that once seemed unstoppable, he smiled. Empires end, Captain. Ideas survive. Hannah nodded slowly. They came to conquer a planet. They created a movement instead. Tay looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were waking up to their first day of freedom. Billions more were wondering what the future might hold. We did not ask for this war. We did not want to become leaders of the galaxy. But here we are. Any regrets? Tay thought about the question for a long time. He thought about the soldiers who had died, the cities that had been damaged, the fear that had gripped the world when those alien ships first appeared. No, he said finally. No regrets. Only gratitude. For what? For being human. He turned to face her. For being part of a species that refuses to give up, that fights against impossible odds, that believes in something greater than itself. He laughed softly. We are strange creatures, Captain. Violent and peaceful. Selfish and generous. Cruel and kind. But when it matters most, when everything is on the line, we come together. We fight, we win. Below them, Earth turns slowly in the void. Small and blue and beautiful. The home of a species that had once been alone in the universe. Not anymore. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity would make sure they stayed that way.